Everyone. Um, so I believe everyone here is kind of exploring their careers in product management. Is anyone already working as a product manager in the group? No, mostly no, right? Cool, that's great. So you heard from Simon what it takes to get into product management, right? I'll talk more about what you get there. Once you get in, where can you get to next as a product manager? Okay, a little bit about my background. I happen to be a product manager about 12 years ago, when no one knew what is a product manager, and whenever anyone asked me what do you do, I would say I'm a product manager, and they'll be like, project manager. I'm like, no, I'm a product manager, and no one understood what it was, right? Year 2010, I was doing a full-time MBA program from Imperial College. I was the only product manager in the cohort, and no one knew in my cohort who is a product manager or what does a product manager do. So as you can imagine, the concept of a product manager as a job role, as a job title, is very new, right? It's hardly, I would say, 10, max 15 years that in the UK in particular, the role is defined. Maybe in Silicon Valley, defined for after .com burst, about 20 years almost. But having said that, I think there have been product managers in past. Maybe the role itself was not defined, but the people were doing the functions, the job functions, or whatever the product manager of today, whatever they do, people were doing that back in the days, but probably not as the same job title as a product manager, right? So cool. Anyways, I've been a product manager. I think it's a very exciting career choice. I certainly love it. Before becoming a product manager, the idea of my career path I had was very different after I became one, right? So again, I can talk a lot about what can you do, what can you not do as a product manager. I do coach at product school, by the way. So again, I do a lot of hands-on coaching when it comes to being a product manager. I like doing products as well. So from time to time, I take on a product for our clients for me to work and build on. I'm currently working with a startup, Series B, C funded startup, to help them restructure their product team. It's a very different role. I'm not building a product, but I'm building a team to build the product, right? Or I'm optimizing the team to build the good product, right? So again, the product for me is the team itself. So it's a very different, very exciting role that I'm currently doing at this moment. But let's go into product management. We saw this diagram earlier with Simon. What does what is a product manager? And everyone knows we normally, as a product manager, you normally talk about the UX, the customer side, the business side, and the technology. And product manager kind of sits right in the middle, right? Now, Simon did say that you do need to have some knowledge around different domains. I think to become good at being a product manager, you do need to have all the three domains for you to cover. However, to get into the product management role, you don't need all the three domains, right? If you think you need to be a software developer or an engineer to get into product management, not true. You need a business or MBA degree to become a product manager, not true, right? You need to understand sales or user side, be a user researcher or a UX designer to become a product manager, not true, right? So again, you don't really need each and every domain for you to be a product manager, right? However, once you are a product manager, then you do need to understand all the different aspects of it, okay? Now, if you go further down, what does this all mean? So let's say the business side, right? So why do a product manager needs to know more about business, right? Because of course you want to build the product that makes money, right? It costs you less to make that product, and once you make that product and sell in the market, you make more money. That's where you get the business sense. What is the cost, what is the operational model, what is the pricing model, everything that goes into making a business out of the product right? You kind of influence that. You may not be doing it, but you kind of influence that. And by having that knowledge, you will be able to make the right product decisions. Otherwise, you will make a product that no one is willing to buy. People are happy to use it for free, but not really buy it in terms of cash, right? Of course, there are plenty of free and premium products out in the market, but any free product doesn't mean is a useless product, right? A free product you do pay, in time, right? Often, and time is money, right? Or you give your data, and data is a lot of money these days, right? So you always pay, like the users always pay in some form or the other, right? Hence, you need to understand the business side. Similarly, the technology and development side, you want to build the product, but you need to know how to build it, or at least what goes into making that product. If you don't, then what you will have is a product that is not built properly, or you are not convinced whether it's done properly or not, right? It's maybe used the wrong technology, or the cost of the technology is too much, or you're not able to support the operational model of it and everything else behind that, right? And similarly, most importantly, the user side. If you don't understand the user of your product, then you are just building the wrong product, or the users you are targeting will not buy the products that you are building, right? Or it does not solve their problem, or is not useful to them. So maybe they will happy to give it a try, but may not use it for a long period of time, or may not pay for it, right? If you ask them to pay. So again, it's very important to know who your users and how you work with them, right? Now, as a product manager or someone who wants to get into product manager, you can get from any of the directions. So you are a developer or from a tech background, you can become a product manager to build a product which is very technology heavy, or you become a product manager, or you get a role into product management which needs a lot of technical input, right? So for example, let's say you want to build a software development platform, SDKs, right? Anyone knows what is an SDK, right? Cool. So if you want to build an SDK, then you need to have a very solid technology background to be able to do that role as a product manager. You can, once you get into that role, you can then take the knowledge of users and the business, but the fundamental requirement will be the tech, right? Similarly, let's say you are building something like like a social media or something like that, Instagram, right? This is very much a user focused tool, right? It's all about the users, how they use, how they share information, how do they communicate with their friends and their social circles and all of those things, right? You do need to understand users really, really well. So if you come from that side, if you understand the market, the user behaviors, the personality, the personas, the demographics, everything else, then you can bring that knowledge into the role, be very user and market focused, and then acquire the rest of the knowledge. And the third kind, the business kind, right? So let's say you're building some kind of accounting package, or a cash flow monitoring tool, or some business intelligence tool, right? In which case you do want to know that, okay, as a business, what things you need to understand, right? So this is the expertise you are bringing to that role. And then being able to understand that expertise, you can bring the knowledge about the tech and the user separately, right? So again, you can enter into the product management role by coming from the business side, okay? So there is no defined path, there is no defined channel for someone to become a product manager, right? Like if you want to become a developer, you need to know development, and if you do an engineering degree, it helps you, right, overall. But for product manager, is nothing like that, right? Now I'm going to present you something bigger, right? So product manager, right? So you normally see in the previous circle where you have the user, business, and the technology. But actually, if you expand out, then you do have a lot of other touch points that you do need to be aware of and need to excel at. So for example, the software development right at the top. Sales, how do you sell your product? What is the value proposition, what the users are paying for, right? Legals, any compliance requirements, any policies you need to be aware of, any regulations that you need to be, you need to adhere to, right? Finances, cost, revenues, direct costs, indirect costs, variable costs, fixed costs, everything you need to know about, right? Research, of course, user research is one side, but also technical research, R&D, scientific research you need to do at times. Marketing, how do you really communicate your product value proposition to your users, right? The 4 P's of marketing. How do you price your product really well, right? How do you position your product really well, right? You need to sell from the right channel, right? So again, a lot of marketing that goes into it. Support, someone buys your product, but how do you support them once they have bought your product? You need to understand, how do people use that, any problems they face, how do you proactively resolve those problems, right? And then of course, the customer side, right, that who is paying. Just remember, the users and customers are different. Someone who uses your product may not pay for it, and someone who pays for your product may not use it, right? So again, users and customers are very, very different thing, right, in case of product management. Now, if you put all these things into perspective, right, you can become a product manager from any of this background. So someone from marketing, right, SEO, PPC and all, they can become a product manager. Similarly, someone from sales, they can become a product manager. Someone from scientific R&D background, they can become a product manager, right? So again, any prior experience you have, any strength you have from your previous job roles, you can become a product manager, right? So I was recently speaking to one of a very large accounting firm in the UK, one of the top 4, right? And they are building a new auditing tool, right? And they were split for choice. So they were not sure whether they want to hire a product manager who can acquire accounting and auditing knowledge, or should they hire someone from auditing or accounting background who wants to become a product manager, right? They eventually ended up hiring someone from auditing background who wanted to become a product manager, right? For a pure product role, I don't think that person would normally, will go through, but because they thought the knowledge of auditing, like the details and the process you need to know, is so important to that particular job function that they decided someone with that background to, lead the product function for them. Similarly, someone I know, so one of my friend, she used to be an HR, and she became a product manager to build an HR tech platform, right? So again, your previous background and all everything you have done before can help you to become to get into a product management role. There's no right or wrong in product management. It all depends, and that depends is about making a judgment call. And you can make that judgment call based on your experience, your knowledge, and if you don't have either, then your ability to learn or acquire that experience and that knowledge, right? So that's how you get into a role, right? Again, this is slightly different view of presenting how typically this role is presented in a lot of different companies, right? You have technical product manager, mainly working on the engineering side. They don't have a lot of market knowledge, right? But they work within the team, hence they are called tech product manager. You have product marketing manager. They normally focus on marketing the product. Once the product is built or the feature is built, how do you communicate out? How do you launch it in the market, right? And then normally you have more strategic product managers who don't normally get involved day to day with engineering and tech and all the low level activities, but they normally focus on product vision, the strategy, and the business side of it, right? So you normally have a lot of director product strategy kind of roles, right? So once you may get into any of the role as an associate or a junior, but eventually you do want to get into like a quite senior director role. So this is more strategic. You can get in this role once you start understand all aspects of product management, all the different business functions you have, right? This is again a slightly different view. Many times people do get confused between a product manager and a product marketing manager, and the split is never well defined. But again, this is one view for you to understand that the lower is more technology and operations driven, the above is more strategic and vision driven, right? So more strategic, more focus on engineering side is where the product management sits. More tech, but not as strategic. That is normally a tech product management role, right? They're just getting things done, low level. Similarly, someone focusing too much on the user and the market, but just focusing on operations, then they are normally sales executives, sales persons. But more on there is more product marketing. It could be a different term: account managers, country managers, business manager, or someone like that. Different terms used in the industry. So how do you grow, right? So normally, as Simon said, you normally get into as an associate product manager, which is like the first level of product management. You would normally not own up the entire product. You will own up a couple of features on a bigger product that you are working on, right? But then as you understand the whole process, you become a product manager to lead major initiatives, major product features, or the product on its own, right? A smaller product. Then you become a senior product manager. Of course, then you have a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge, and then you start taking very commercially minded, a very bigger, slightly bigger products, involving bigger teams, maybe multiple teams, and also be in charge of making some commercial decisions about the product that you're working on, right? And then you get into director of product, right? Now at that moment, as a director of product, you have two separate choice, right? Either you are a director of a product and in charge of the product teams, where individual product managers are in charge of all the different products, and you are just like a team manager for them, or you own up a full portfolio of the product that the individual teams are working on, right? So in which case you are the real product managers, whereas the others are just like your proxy to get the information down to the team, right? So the due role at this level, the director level, do split into two different parts, right? As a VP, you are more commercially driven. You start taking care of commercial P&L strategy. You may have a lot more say into business investment. What kind of new products to go. You may be a lot more strategic, a lot more market driven. Fishing for new opportunities. Risk, competition, all of those things. And as a chief product officer, normally you sit on the company board. Now, not all company would have CPO directly at the company or executive board, but they may have someone in charge as a CPO, right? As a CPO, you would take care of all product functions, right? Sometimes the CPO reports into CTO, like technology officer, or sometimes it could be the other way around, where the CTO is reporting into CPO. Depends on what kind of products you are building. And as everyone says, a product manager is everything a CEO does minus the people, right? If you start taking care of people and all aspects of your business, then you can be a CEO, a founder, or a COO overall at the company board level, right? You can be a CEO, COO, or co-founders right from the beginning, like the way Simon did. He founded a couple of companies before getting into product manager. So again, you can be one of those roles. Again, it depends on the size of the company. Not all the companies will have this kind of job levels. They may only have like 2 or 3. So again, it depends a lot on the individual company and the product you're working on, right? So I think that's about it really as a product role. Cool.